Mr. Speaker, will you please call the House to order?
The House will come to order. In the absence of clergy, let us pause for a moment of silence. Visitors are invited to join the members in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A quorum being present, the clerk will read the Journal of Monday, January 11th. Mr. Morelli?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to dispense with the further reading of the Journal of Monday, January 11th, and that the same stand approved.
Without objection, so ordered. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Before I take a moment to provide members with a schedule for the day, let me just note a couple of important historical facts on this day in history, January 12th. For instance, many of you who are football fans will no doubt remember that on this day in 1968, the AFL's New York Jets defeated the NFL's Baltimore Colts to win Super Bowl III in what is considered to be one of the greatest upsets in sports history, changing the way the AFL was viewed in football rivalries, ultimately leading to its merger. On this day in 1948, Mahatma Gandhi began his last successful fast to persuade Hindus and Muslims in the city of New Delhi to work towards peace. He was assassinated a month later. Also on this day in 1948, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the all-white law school at the University of Oklahoma could no longer ban African-American applicants, setting the precedent that state schools could not discriminate against law school applicants based on race. So this indeed was an important day in our nation's history. With that, let me talk a little bit about what members should expect for our schedule for the day. After any introductions and housekeeping, we will be taking up a resolution honoring the life of the Honorable Chief Judge Judith Kaye. Members have on their desks a main calendar. We will continue our work on consent today, beginning with calendar number 23. We will also be taking up a series of rule changes that have been proposed by the minority. Majority members should be aware that there will be the need for a conference once our work on the floor has been completed, and I'll consult with my colleagues about whether there will be a need for a minority conference as well. So with that as a general outline, Mr. Speaker, if there are introductions and housekeeping, this would be the appropriate time to take them up, sir.
We have an introduction by Ms. Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to rise for the purposes of an introduction today. My colleagues, I am very pleased to introduce to you students from the Wilton Baptist Academy in my district. These are 5th grade through 12th grade students, and they are joined today by their teachers, Jason Betts, and their pastor, Steve Harness. The Wilton Baptist Academy has a curriculum that offers a foundation for both college and future service to the Lord in both secular vocations as well as church ministry. And while challenging, the excellent goals in this school can develop a lifetime desire for learning and equip students for success in life. I hope you will extend the cordialities of the House to these delightful students from Wilton Baptist Academy.
Certainly, on behalf of Ms. Warner, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome you here to the New York State Assembly. We extend to you the privileges of the floor. We are so pleased to have you with us today. We hope that both students and teachers and those who accompany you will have a great day here in Albany. We are very proud of the capital of our state. Thank you so very much. Thank you for coming. We have some housekeeping to conduct. At the request of Mr. McDonald, the following bills are committed back to committee. Calendar number 174, bill number 4278A to the Committee on Higher Education. At the request of Mr. Rodriguez, calendar number 46, bill number 986 to the Committee on Banks. at the request of Mr. Rodriguez, calendar number 51, bill number 1150 to the Committee on Aging.
Mr. Morelli.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I understand we have a joint resolution, as I indicated, on the life and times of Chief Judge Judith Kaye, which we'd like to take up at this time, sir.
Legislative resolution, the clerk will read.
Legislative resolution celebrating the life and exemplary career of the Honorable Judith S. Kaye, former Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, New York State's highest court.
Today, we pause in our deliberations to commemorate the life of an extraordinary New Yorker. Over the course of her life, Judith Kaye became many things. She was the first woman to be appointed to the New York State Court of Appeals. She was the first woman to be appointed to the highest judicial post in our state, Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. She was also the longest-serving Chief Judge in its 170-year history. She was a trailblazer for women in law and government. She was a guardian of life and liberty, and a reformer most of all. She was always a voice of conscience and reason. She believed in leadership by example, and she reminded us that our mission is to govern with sensibility, with understanding, and always with a sense of fairness. History will remember her for raising her voice in defense of those whose voices could not be heard. For this and all her contributions to this great state and to its people, the Assembly will always be grateful. Ms. Weinstein, to speak on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join with you and with all New Yorkers in paying tribute to Chief Judge Kaye, a visionary committed to reforming the judicial system to advance civil liberties and equal access to justice. And as was mentioned, a first among firsts. First woman appointed to the Court of Appeals, the longest first Chief Judge, female Chief Judge, the longest serving Chief Judge amongst other accomplishments. Chief Judge Kaye was a national leader in court reform efforts and helped transform the responsiveness of our judicial system to the needs of the public by creating problem-solving courts, specialized courts, such as the community courts, the Red Hook Community Court, the Midtown Community Court. In fact, at yesterday's funeral during the eulogy, former Mayor Bloomberg credited Judge Kaye's efforts in establishing the Midtown Community Court with helping to really turn around and revitalize Times Square. Some of the other problem-solving courts are ones that at the time were unique amongst the nation and now accepted not only in our state but in many other states as needed and routine, whether it's the drug courts around our state, youth courts, domestic violence courts, and in some communities, commercial courts. She was a visionary who saw the need of having the court system respond to the individuals, the community, the state that it serves. An accomplished jurist who issued groundbreaking decisions bearing on civil liberties and constitutional protections, amongst others. Chief Judge Kaye dedicated her life to public service, access to justice, and finding innovative ways to improve our judicial system. She had a special place in her heart for making sure that the courts treated our children, the children of our state, fairly. It was under her leadership that many of the courts established child care centers, recognizing that families, and most often women with children who needed to have their issues litigated, also needed a place for their children to be while they were in court. She, as I said, we have really lost a great innovator, someone who is recognized throughout the nation as a leader in the court system, an incredibly impressive jurist. I join all New Yorkers in mourning this loss, in celebrating her life and contributions. And yesterday, the outpouring of love and support for Chief Judge Kaye was evidenced by the fact that her funeral needed to be moved from the original location because of the demand of so many people who wanted to pay their last respects to the State Theater of Lincoln Center, where Judge Kaye played to a full house.
Mr. Titone on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too share in the mourning of former Chief Judge Judith Kaye in this state. Certainly professionally, her legacy is something that will always be remembered. Some of the things that we fail to remember about Judge Kaye is her reform of the jury system. She firmly believed that this right to have, trials by jury, was kind of being undermined by the fact that it was not user-friendly, and she actually made it user-friendly. Notably in her career, her dissent just a few years ago on marriage equality certainly, speaks volumes of her dedication to those civil rights for, quite frankly, the underdog and protecting them. But Judge Kaye, the person, I just want to talk very briefly about her. What many people don't know is that she was a very, very staunch supporter of pro bono legal services. In fact, when she retired from the bench and she moved over to private practice, she continued to support pro bono legal services for, once again, the people of this state who are, quote unquote, are the underdog. And it's also her, her belief in legal education, continuing legal education, that should be remembered. And just, on a personal level, she and my dad always had these running jokes together. If you went to Jack's back then and you saw the Court of Appeals having a dinner, they would always end with a birthday cake for Judge Kaye, and she would always complain, it's not my birthday. So, Judge Kaye, when she died, according to my dad sending her all those birthday cakes, is well over several centuries old. But she had several times brought her students to come to Staten Island to see me, and we talked about the legislative process. She graciously allowed me to buy lunch each and every time. Thank you, Judge Kaye. But two of those lunches, I have to say, she got my dad back when I was presented with a birthday cake, and it was not my birthday. So she had an extraordinarily sharp sense of humor that, seems to get lost in our resolution. Such the epitome of true class and really the gold star for the profession, not only the judiciary, but for every lawyer in this state, both, those who are practicing presently and for those who will come down the line out of law school. She is the gold standard of this state for the legal profession. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Gunther on the resolution.
First of all, I'm a resident of Sullivan County, and on behalf of the people of Sullivan County, I am proud and honored to call the Honorable Judith Kaye one of our own. On January 7th, we lost a friend and a neighbor, but more than that, we lost a trailblazer. At a time when women were being told their place was in the home, Judge Kaye graduated from Monticello High School 2 years early, went on to receive a bachelor's degree from Barnard and her Juris Doctorate from NYU. She has stood and will continue to stand as a role model to the young people of Sullivan County. She is a testament to the strength of our community and has set the example that for those who are dedicated and brave, the future is limitless. Thank you.
Ms. Gallup on the resolution.
I think it's been such a loss for us to lose this very special individual in the state of New York. I did not know Justice Kay all that well, but I did have such great respect for her. I remember going over to the Albany Law School when she spoke about reforms and what needed to be done in the court system. Also, there was a time when she invited all the women, I don't know whether it was through Assemblywoman Weinstein, but we were all invited over to meet with her in the judiciary setting, which was very, very exciting for many of us. And she inspired me so much about a woman being able to attain such a very important role that one of the issues that I got involved with was making our New York State Constitution gender neutral. And because I was thinking about the head of the Court of Appeals was always talking about a male, but also talked about a male being in the Assembly and Senate and everywhere else. But she was such a star, and the fact that we didn't even identify that she was a woman heading our court system. So we actually went out to the public with a constitutional amendment in 2001, and it was passed. And in 2002, she sent me a copy of the Constitution. This is not the one I have framed in my office, but I do have one framed that she wrote on April 2002. Inscribed with gratitude for Assemblymember Sandy Gallup, we are delighted to have a gender-free Constitution, Judith Kay. And I look at that, and when I have people come into my office, I talk about the issue, but I talk about her and how much she has done for the view of women in the state of New York and what all women can do. And of course, all of her rulings have had an impact on every one of us in the state of New York in a very positive way. So she is such an individual that we can all admire, have had her as a mentor, and know that in the future she's inspired all of us. Thank you very much.
Mr. Weprin on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, am very proud that I knew Judge Kay, and I considered her a friend. She was a friend of the Weprin family. My late father was Speaker when she was appointed Chief Judge, and they became very close. And I also served at one point as a pro bono counsel to an organization called the Network of Bar Leaders of New York State. And that was basically all the traditional bar associations in the New York City metropolitan area, but also all the specialty bar associations, all the very diverse bar associations consisting of, at the time, it was about 40 different organizations, ethnic bar associations, and various other bar associations. And we would very often have Judge Kay as our guest speaker, and she really was a tremendously appreciated the participation of the various ethnic bar associations and the diversity in the courts. And she strived throughout her tenure as Chief Judge, as well as well after that, to encourage diversity in the judicial system, to encourage more people of color, more various bar associations, whether they be Latino or African American or Asian or South Asian bar associations. She thought it was very important that the court system look like the people that appeared before them. And despite, when she was appointed, it was a very controversial appointment because she had never served as a lower judge, as a judge of any system, but she did have an extensive legal background as a practicing lawyer and as a mother, as a woman who was very involved in the community. And she brought a perspective to the court system that really had never been brought before, certainly not at that level. And if, despite her legal acumen, her professional judicial demeanor, which was tremendous. I would use one word, I guess, in Yiddish to describe her, and that, of course, is a mensch, because she was really a wonderful human being, kind to all, and really a real example for all of us. I want to join my colleagues in mourning the great loss to New York State of Judge Judith Kaye.
Mr. Lenthal on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for proposing this resolution, Mr. Speaker, because this is really a sad day for all of us to have lost someone who was a friend of the members of the New York State Assembly and who worked very hard at her job as Chief Judge of the State of New York. As I recall, she was appointed by then Governor Mario Cuomo, and I think as Mr. Weprin has pointed out, it was a very controversial appointment. First woman judge ever to serve as the Chief Judge of New York State. And she had a lot of obstacles to overcome being a woman. And she not only overcame them, but she flourished in the job and did it as well or better than any man ever could in that position. And I was proud to be able to have a personal relationship with a woman who championed the courts of this state and was able to work on many pieces of legislation as chairman of the Codes Committee in order to further her idea of what justice would mean. I know that Assemblywoman Weinstein has spoken about her work as far as improving the jury system of the state of New York. And many would argue that that system still needs improvement. But if it weren't for her getting down in the trenches and doing the kind of grunt work that no other chief judge thought was their job or thought it was beneath them to do, to worry about the jury system of this state, she did it, and she did it well. And as a result of that, we have people who serve on juries and want to serve on juries, whereas before it was always a problem. And all of you members of the Assembly, I know, are sure that that is the case, because you've gotten many people who want to get out of jury duty as opposed to those who want to serve and ask us all the time. But nevertheless, the Chief Judge of the State of New York has an awfully tough job. And there isn't anyone in my recent memory who did it better. And I'm saddened by her loss, and I thank you for introducing this resolution. May God rest her soul.
That's it. Mr. Gottfried on the resolution.
Mr. Speaker, Judge Kaye was, at least in the New York City sense of things, a neighbor of mine, in the sense that she didn't live next door, but on the next block. I would occasionally run into her in the morning on the street, occasionally even in the subway, because we used the same stop. She was a superb voice for justice and good sense here in New York. I don't want to add a lot to the length of the discussion. Just one of my favorite things she ever said was in her decision, which unfortunately was in the minority, in the case in New York about whether New York's law, before we enacted it, authorized same-sex marriage. And she had a line in her opinion that, I mean, the whole opinion, to my way of thinking, was brilliant. But there was one line in particular that I thought was really worthy of some of the most down-to-earth comments in an opinion of Benjamin Cardozo. Her point was that if same-sex couples get married, that really doesn't take anything away from anybody else. And the way she said it was, if they run out of marriage licenses and certificates, they can print more. And I just thought that was a wonderful way of just very plainly summing up the issue, or at least one aspect of the issue. Both on the bench and in her retirement, she was a constant force for improvement of our legal system, and we're going to miss her greatly.
On the resolution, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The resolution is adopted. Mr. Morelli.
Mr. Morelli for a introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before we begin our official work on the calendar, it gives me great pleasure to introduce two guests in the chamber who are guests of our friend John Soretto. His son, Vincent, and friend Sonia Narla are here in the chambers. They are just finished medical school and now preparing for residency. And I wanted to spend some time in the Capitol with John, and we're delighted to have them in the chambers. We want to wish them well as they prepare for the next step in their journey towards being physicians in this great state, and we want to make sure that we extend all the cordiality to the House on behalf of Mr. Soretto, the Speaker, and all the members.
Certainly, on behalf of Dad, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome you both here to the New York State Assembly. We extend to you the privileges of the floor, and we wish you well on your future endeavors. We all are sure that the state of New York needs good physicians, and we are really sure that you will be both. Both of you will be that. Thank you again for being here, and as family, you're always welcome in this chamber. Thank you so much. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, sir. If we could now begin our work on the main calendar on page 6, beginning with calendar number 23 by Mr. Abenanti.
Clerk will read.
Assembly 298, calendar number 23. Mr. Abenanti, an act to amend the general obligations law.
The bill is laid aside.
Assembly 300, calendar number 24. Mr. Dinowitz, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Morelli.
Yes, sir. A gentle reminder to all of our colleagues in the chamber that this is our first vote of the day, and I notice a couple of members who have not made their way. Hopefully they can hear me, and they will move with dispatch over to the chambers to cast their first vote of the day as well.
Certainly, Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli reminds all in the sound of our voices, please come to the chamber and vote.